Stay connected to your community and save. Just 99 cents a month gets you 3 months of unlimited access to Inform.com. Visit Inform.com/subscribe and get your first 3 months of news for only 99 cents a month.
Wilford Captain Billy Fawcett became the millionaire owner of Breezy Point Resort, an Olympic athlete, and the king of risque humor. Hi, this is Tracy Briggs, and welcome to Back Then. You all know the story of the Music Man, right? Con man Harold Hill makes his way into River City, Iowa. He tries to convince the stubborn townspeople there that they're in trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. Well, he makes a pitch in song that if the town would just start their own band, their sons would stop hanging out at the pool hall where they were being corrupted. Harold said something like this: "Mothers of River City, heed that warning before it's too late. Watch for the telltale signs of corruption. Is he starting to memorize jokes from Captain Billy's whiz-bang?" Great song, right? But one thing, what exactly is Captain Billy's whiz-bang? It turns out Captain Billy, and subsequently his whiz-bang, have roots in North Dakota and Minnesota. Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang was a bawdy humor magazine started by a North Dakota boy from a good family. Wilford Hamilton Fawcett became one of this region's most colorful characters. He was a veteran of 2 wars, an Olympic athlete, a world traveler, a big game hunter, and the guy who built Breezy Point Resort on Pelican Lake, where he entertained movie stars and world leaders. Wilford Hamilton Fawcett was born on April 27, 1885, in Canada, to John and Hannah Maria Bird Fawcett. He was the third of their 8 children. I found a story written by Kurt Eriksmoen in 2009. He got a lot of information from Bruce Jovig, who was an entrepreneur coach and founding director of the Center for Innovation at the University of North Dakota. In that story, they said, at the time of Wilford's birth, John was superintendent of the Winnipeg school system. While serving as superintendent, John was also working on his medical degree at the University of Manitoba. So Wilford's father, John Fawcett, eventually earned that degree. So when Wilford was just 3 years old, the family moved to Candu, North Dakota, and later Grand Forks. Dr. Fawcett specialized in, quote, women's diseases, end quote, and gained a reputation for his work with abdominal surgeries. So their life in Grand Forks was comfortable, but young Wilford craved adventure. He dropped out of Central High in Grand Forks when he was just 16. He somehow fooled the U.S. Army into believing he was 18, and he was sent to the Philippines in 1902 to help subdue an insurrection there. But he got shot in the leg and eventually went back to Central High, where, no doubt, he told the best stories in homeroom. A few years later, when Wilford was 20, his family moved to Minneapolis, where he married Viva Myers. She was from rural Iowa. He soon found work as a reporter at the Minneapolis Tribune and later the Winnipeg Free Press. When World War I broke out, he enlisted and was stationed in Virginia, where he wrote for Stars and Stripes, the U.S. Army magazine. He earned the rank of captain, and forever his nickname, Captain Billy. When the war was over, he returned to Robbinsdale, Minnesota, having learned a valuable lesson from his time in the Army. Soldiers like risque humor. And now that they were off base, away from their buddies in war, they might be missing it. So Fawcett figured the time was right to launch a new magazine that appealed to the body interests of returning doughboys. He called it Captain Billy's Whiz-Bang. Whiz-Bang, by the way, was the name Allied forces gave to German artillery shells in World War I. According to the Minnesota Historical Society, the first issue of the magazine came out in October of 1919. By 1923, the magazine was selling 425,000 copies every month. In 1920, Fawcett's 2 brothers, Roscoe and Harvey, moved to Minneapolis to help run Fawcett Publications. 2 years later, they introduced other successful magazines, True Confessions and Modern Mechanics, Inventions, and XXX Western. The magazines made Fawcett a rich man. He purchased land at Breezy Point on Pelican Lake near Pequot Lakes, Minnesota, which he built into a popular resort. By this point, he was divorced from his first wife, Viva, and married to his second wife, Antoinette. The couple became the ultimate hosts at Breezy Point, hobnobbing with all of the beautiful people, from politicians like Harry Truman to movie stars, including Clark Gable and Carole Lombard. While at Breezy Point, guests of the Fawcett's would hunt, fish, swim, and drink illegal liquor. Minnesota, even Breezy Point, wasn't immune at the time from the criminal underworld during the Prohibition era. In fact, Antoinette, Billy's wife, was believed to have introduced muckraking journalist Walter Liggett to Isidore Kid Can Blumenfeld, who was eventually tried for Liggett's murder. For more information on that, go to inform.com, where I've written another story and done another podcast on that. By 1924, Fawcett craved more action, and Captain Billy took on new roles that had him traveling the world. According to the Minnesota Historical Society, he competed in trap shooting, which was basically shotgun shooting at clay targets, in the 1924 Paris Olympics. He hunted in Africa, took a round-the-world vacation, and purchased the St. Paul and the Minneapolis boxing clubs. Perhaps the world travels created trouble, though, on the home front. He got divorced again and married again in 1935, this time to his secretary, Marie Frances Robinson. A year later, he stopped publishing the magazine that made him famous and rich, Captain Billy's Whiz Bang. Ballantine Books, a division of Random House Publishing, eventually acquired Fawcett Publications. Wilford Fawcett died of a heart attack on February 7, 1940, in Hollywood, after what was obviously a whiz-bang of a life. Thanks for joining me on Back Then. I hope you catch me next time.
Get reliable and accurate local news with Inform.com. Inform.com is your trusted local news source with journalists dedicated to keeping you informed about what's happening in your community. Visit Inform.com now.